everyone. This is our fifth LinkedIn Live event as RegenerateX. Today, we will be talking about building regenerative cities. We will explore the latest innovations in regenerative city design. And for this event, as always, we have visionary experts. We will together deep dive into the principles of regenerative economy, green infrastructure, renewable energy, and community engagement, and showcase some inspirational examples of regenerative spaces from all around the world. Now, let me first introduce you, Adip Zada. Let me introduce him to you. Okay, Adip is an award-winning environmental activist and architect, founder of the Other Dada regenerative consultancy and architecture practice, the first B Corp certified company in Lebanon. Since 2019, he has planted over 11 forests across cities in Lebanon, reclaiming more than 3,700 square meters of degraded land by planting them with over 10,500 trees. His story has been produced a short documentary about his forest making work in the aftermath of the Beirut explosion of 2020. Welcome, Adip. And another precious speaker of today is Eda Charmuk. Eda is utopian, an entrepreneur and a facilitator. She creates corporate transformation journeys with their Love Mafia tribe. She thrives in building communities and collaborating with like-hearted organizations all around the world. She takes the constructive approach and belief in humanity as a compass in her life and keeps adding new regenerative tools to her life to be in service of the collective consciousness. So welcome, Eda.
Thank you.
And Marcus is also with us today. He is utopian, innovator, entrepreneur, developer, musician, joker, and seeker of the fourth way. Marcus' primary life aim is to make the real the paradoxical vision he perceives within himself in whatever format it seeks to manifest. Now I want to tell him some big questions that he pursues as a co-founder of Joint Idea, LifeWorks Labs, Love Mafia, and Urbanista. How will this time be different? With whom can it best take shape? Knowing what I know now, what should I do? What are the skills, tools, and perspectives I need to synergize people, nature, technology, love, and beauty in ways that truly serve the mission of unfolding universe? Really impressed by all your bios, guys. So welcome, Marcus. Welcome all. Thank you for joining us today. And this is Pelin speaking, and let me introduce myself briefly. I have been in business life for 19 years, managing international teams in corporate setting. Then I decided to put my white career color aside and to choose an adventure instead, follow my heart, which brought me to RegenerateX. I have previously held marketing positions at industry giants like Turkcell and Arçelik, and now I have a portfolio career where I have privilege to choose the projects I feel connected to. And one of these projects is being the project partner at RegenerateX. And in here, we design conscious business design models, hybrid experiences, and activate communities. We redefine the leadership by leading the heart. And today, besides our guest speakers, I am here with Marv Radio, our Heartmaster partner, musician and the voice coach, who will share his gift of music. Because in regeneration, we believe in holistic experiences. So welcome, Marv. And during our conversation, I know you will have a lot of questions, and I ask you that you write those questions in the chat part, and we will relay those questions to our speakers at the Q&A portion at the event. And now, I'm very happy to present you my dear partners and friends, Jana and Rudy. Jana is a conscious business designer, cultural innovation strategist, facilitator, and a leadership mentor. She is a keynote speaker and founder of the Heroines platform and the co-founder of RegenerateX. And Rudy is a keynote speaker on regenerative innovation. He is the founder of Unconditional Man and co-founder of RegenerateX. He guides, connects, and inspires leaders and entrepreneurs to co-create the emerging regenerative paradigm. So a very exciting conversation awaits us. Please make sure that you are actively in the moment and in the conversation. Regeneration after all, not a lecture, just a conversation. So, Janay and Rudy, the stage is yours now.
Thank you, Pelin. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome.
It's great to be with some of our best people in our community, and it's great to have you all here.
Yes, welcome. Regenerative cities, such an interesting topic. The last time I was basically involved with cities was when we were talking about smart cities like a decade ago. And already then we could see a lot of, the trends for the future, because like when everything becomes data and we are able to measure, we can learn a lot of things. So meanwhile, I went through a whole transformation of like connecting back to nature, learning from nature, and actually also designing with nature and as nature, so, and hence the topic of regenerative cities is a very dear to my heart, because I think it's most of the people on this planet live in cities now. Most of the work is there. And I think with technology, we have a lot of ways to actually tackle ways to, like make the cities more livable. Yeah. And also more green and more sustainable. So it's a very vast topic. We can talk about a lot of things, like the quality of the air, the energy or green energy facilitations, like the quality of your water. Why is there no drinking water or good drinking water in cities? Why do we need to bring all the water in plastic bottles from other areas and so on? And then also, transport and neighborhoods. And I think probably the most important thing is still the people, Janai.
Because if we are talking about cities, we are actually talking about humans coming together in communities, learning and cross-pollinating, growing cultures, bridging the past to the future, ancient wisdom to new technologies. Cities are our containers, our hubs. And in the end, what is a regenerative city if it's not consisting of regenerative communities? That's why with RegenerateX, our focus is a community-led approach where we can learn, cross-pollinate, and inspire and support each other in this movement of regeneration. And with that, I want to welcome our guests again. And here is our initial invitation. Please tell us the main question. What is a regenerative city? How is it different than all the other green city, smart city, sustainable city approaches? And what is your passion regarding regenerative cities? And what is your role? What are your practices? Please introduce yourselves. Let's start with my dearest friend, Eda. Welcome, Eda.
Thank you, Jenna. It's a very hard question because I think we're talking about cities, but majority of the population is feeling the need to get away from the cities because it's not serving us anymore. As humans, we have lived in communities, but right now in the cities, especially in Istanbul right now, I can tell that nobody knows about their neighbors. They're not connected to people around them. I think that like companies, cities are also composed of people. If you take out of people from the cities, there's only empty buildings and a land when you look at it. And right now, as many of you possibly know that there has been a devastating earthquake in Turkey. And it gives us a clean slate to look at those cities and how to regenerate them, how to build them all over again. Because with the existing structures, it's hard to imagine, hard to navigate to where you want to go with that city. But right now, hopefully, that's my intention and my effort is into that as well. How do we regenerate those cities that has been collapsed, that is very original to the original way that it was, that is not built without respect to what it was before and how people lived and commute? Because right now, when you look at it, there's a lot of debates that are going on, how to do it, but nobody knows how those people live and what they need. So I think it all starts with people. To regenerate anything is the regeneration of the human itself, how they perceive. And when they change, everything will change. So thank you.
Thank you, Edajim. And I know your work in helping humans change within communities, supporting each other. Maybe you would like to mention a little bit about that too.
Yes, I believe in the potential that we all have and the capacity that we carry, and how do we make that capacity come alive. That's my purpose, just like you and Rudija and I. It's just that, if we make humanity wake up, then we don't have to do much. We will all build it together. It's not one man show. It's not I know best. It's a communal effort that will regenerate life on this planet. So that's my perception.
Thank you so much. And Adip, I know you are the regenerative architect, regenerating cities, bringing forests back to the cities. How do you define regenerative cities, and how is it different than sustainability actions? And what are some of the practices you are bringing, serving right now?
Thanks, Janai. Definitely, I mean, when we talk about sustainability, I mean, this is when I started my career, I started my studies, studying sustainable buildings and sustainable cities. But very quickly, you figure out that sustainability is about sustaining the status quo. And this is exactly what we do not want to be doing. What we want to be doing is going beyond sustainability and really looking at regeneration, because we have, I mean, obviously humans have affected all of these changes on planet Earth, but we do also have the opportunity not to save the planet, but to actually help the planet regenerate for our own sake. So this is what we'd like to do. And when I talk about regenerative cities, I'd like to echo what Eda said, and it's really about empowering communities to, in the case of cities, to reclaim degraded lands and transform these degraded lands into shared spaces for humans and other creatures to be able to thrive in cities. As we know, in a few years' time, almost 70% of the world population will be living in cities, and we really need to find a way to transform cities into shared common spaces for all types of life to survive there and to thrive.
Aho, thank you so much, Adip. And Marcus, what is your take on this, hearing also what Eda and Adip shared?
Well, I share, of course, many of these comments and feelings about the whole thing. And very much like Rudy, I've gone through a very, my whole life has been a journey through the kind of separation of myself from the city. I grew up in the middle of nowhere in Canada, so I know what it feels like to live in wilderness, and I kind of crave that also in my older self now, actually, but I'll come to that in a second. But, looking at the experience of cities, like Eda and everybody has also said, we can't separate the human from the story of the city. I mean, the city is a man-made creation. It's a machine. It's a golem, and it's ultimately human beings that make up this concept of what we call cities. And if we look at cities being places now of kind of mechanization or over-mechanization, it's also a symptom of ourselves being overly mechanized and being out of contact with ourselves. And my process really of coming from nature, now spending the past 20 years of my life working on cities and trying to bring nature into the city and suffering through the hardships of that whole process, and understanding that the city exists primarily as a commercial enterprise for people to make money. And this idea of regeneration and bringing nature and animals back into the city kind of goes against why cities were built in the first place. To get the animals out, to get nature out, that it could be efficient and that it could function like a machine to enable things to happen so that commerce and capitalism could thrive. So the idea of a regenerative city kind of for me is like this idea of utopia. It's this kind of place that we can imagine within ourselves when we close our eyes, or when we look at something in the distance and we squint our eyes a little bit and we see something shiny and beautiful. But then when we open our eyes, especially for me these days, I realize that the cities are not any longer places of beauty, and of even the possibility really of nature coming in to thrive. I mean, it's wonderful that Adib is planting trees and bringing the forest back into the city, but I personally don't foresee a day where we're going to have animals thriving in cities as they would in pure nature. And that's against the concept of a city, to be honest. So the way I see this and what I try to commit myself to it is myself coming to terms with myself and finding harmony within myself. And if I'm a microcosm of the city, if I'm able to find this balance within myself of being a kind of three-centered being where I have my mental, intellectual self and my emotional self and my body or my biological, instinctive self, let's say, I see that as very much a kind of mirror to what we call the 3 E's of sustainability. So this kind of economical self, which is primarily touching our mind. So for sustainability or regeneration to work, it has to be somehow profitable or purposeful or some kind of balance between these two. It also has to be ethical. It has to be emotional. It has to touch our hearts. And this is what is truly missing in cities so far, is that this idea of beauty and love is not brought into the mix. You know, that's something that we also don't understand within ourselves very much. And I think that that's really at the core of what we need to address. And the issue of the kind of our body self is the human is represented in the ecological self of the city and of its relationship to nature. And we know a lot about the things that we should do, you know, to be more sustainable and to be more environmentally conscious. And, you know, the kind of tools and tricks of the trade, so to speak, are well known. But the biggest problem is that we don't know how to emotionally interpret those. And we don't know how to extend our heart to the city, to truly extend love to one another. And like Heather was saying, to know our neighbors even. You know, we might live in highly, you know, sustainable buildings that are green and, you know, not producing waste. And, you know, they're kind of recycling, reusing and reducing, and all those things can happen. But if we don't act with love, and if we don't act with this kind of lens of beauty, regeneration will never occur. So this is ultimately, I think, a balancing act of generative or masculine energy and regenerative or feminine energy coming together that we need to first bring into harmony within ourselves. And if that happens, and I hope it will, then the cities will have a chance of moving in that direction.
Thank you, Marcus. You really touch already immediately on the core of the issue, which is basically that as humans, we lost our connection to nature. Yeah, and in cities, that connection to nature is less and less available. There are cities where there's still some nice parks, a few of them, but there are other cities where literally we cannot see any green anymore. So, building regenerative cities, like where do we start? You know, like how is it that we transform? Because we are all convinced we need to bring change. We know that the way things are going now is not enough any longer. Sustainability will not save us. So how do we transform things? And I'd like to ask this question to Adib, because I know he does some really interesting work of actually bringing the forest and nature back into the city. So Adib, let us know about what you're working on.
Sure. So as I said, I mean, I started, can you hear me well, or is there still echo? Yeah. So, I mean, I started working, I got very interested with the topic of the Beirut River. So the Beirut River is a river that was encased in concrete in 1968 to prevent it from flooding. Obviously not the right approach. The area still floods. It's because, I mean, all of these areas were built in the floodplain of the river. And so that, you know, canalization of the river in concrete did not really do its job, but it actually destroyed this once thriving ecosystem and turned it into a no man's land. And now it's full of sewage, it's full of garbage. You know, communities who used to come and meet next to the river and used to have their festivals and all of that, you know, from different backgrounds and different religions, no longer now can meet in this kind of public space. And so for me, the work that we've been doing is how can we at the level of the citizen, you know, not going to the level of government. So for 7 years, I tried to go the way of, you know, reaching out to the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Water, the different municipalities, and it's just like, you know, there is absolutely no will to do anything. At least, you know, that's the case in Lebanon. And then it's only when we understood that what can we do at our own scale. So at our own scale, we cannot regenerate the river, but something that we could do is to actually regenerate the forest that used to exist alongside the river, and bringing that forest back into the city, specifically to reconnect people with nature. So on our way to this utopia, we need to take these small steps. And for me, it starts with reconnecting people with nature in the heart of the city. So not asking people to get out of their comfort zone, to get out of the city, to go to nature, but really actually enabling them to bring nature back into their neighborhoods. And this is why with the work that we do, we're creating these, micro forests, these pocket forests in different parts of the city, whether they are next to the Beirut River, whether they are in concrete school playgrounds where we go in and destroy the concrete and work with the students on recreating these tiny forest ecosystems. It's really all about that reconnection to nature, and this is what opens up their heart through the hand, through the senses, the touch, and the smell, and actually holding a tiny tree sapling and placing it in the ground, and then maintaining it. With the work we do, we need to maintain our forest for 3 years' time for them to become self-sufficient. So it's also something that we're keeping in mind. I mean, obviously, we're only using native species. We're recreating the whole forest ecosystem, from the little shrubs to the small trees to the large trees. And so really recreating a forest ecosystem. So we're not doing reforestation with a couple of species. Like, we have more than 20 different species that we are using that have evolved over millennia to create this forest ecosystem. So it's a very complex ecosystem that we are trying to recreate. And by having the people engaged not only in restoring that ecosystem, but also in maintaining it. So we are introducing practices of care over 3 years' time. And those practices of care is what's going to connect people to nature more deeply and allow them to appropriate that space and really appropriate these small forests that we are creating. And so the smallest one we've done is around 6 square meters, so really tiny. And the largest one so far is around 3,000 square meters. So it really kind of changes in scale. And then the experience is obviously very, very different.
Each time I hear this project, Adip, it just opens my heart. Congratulations and thank you on behalf of humanity. What I hear from you is start where you are with whatever you can, engage with communities and activate them in the long term to be in nature, with nature, ensuring the diversity is there, inclusion is there. And these are long-term visions with a lot of patience. And when there is resistance, when there is constraints, find your own flow in ways that you can.
And
what I'm hearing.
And don't wait for permission. So when we failed, when we failed to be able to do the big project we had in mind, we broke it down and we really just went ahead with it. And we don't advertise our work much in Lebanon because we don't want to get on the radar of the different government organizations, and we just do the work and that's it.
I really love start now. Don't wait for anything, anyone, or any permission. I think it's a great invitation to start with whatever we can and drop the excuses and drop perfectionism. And that's one of the things you shared with us earlier. You said, I used to be a perfectionist. Now I do whatever I can. Exactly. This is where we are as humanity. So let's focus on our attention on what we can do and open ourselves to get inspired and learn from each other. And also trust that when you have the good intention and attention in the communities and acting as nature, things also emerge, right? Probably. So with that, I would like to look at the emerging field. There are also a lot of amazing technologies that is being introduced to humanity that is easing our job of this local, communal, decentralized ways of acting, learning from each other, collaborating. And there are also some ancient wisdoms that are available to us that we have been repeating actually in all around the world with our unique cultures. So I would like to ask this question, what are the new and ancient technologies that are available to us in terms of regenerative transformation that you or we can utilize for this movement? Marcus, do you have some insights and what are some examples you would like to share with us?
Well, I'm going to have to choose the way I answer that question actually quite carefully, because in my heart, I believe that our kind of drive towards more convenience and more ease in our life is actually the real problem. So I don't support technologies that actually take us in the direction of that, because I think that this idea of an easy lifestyle where we can bypass facing the difficult issues that we face in our life make us weak as human beings. And like I was trying to say at the first part, I think our purpose in life is to really align our centers, where we're operating in harmony between our mind or our mental state, our intellect, our heart, and our body. And when that starts to happen, then we can start to appreciate this idea of what regeneration actually is. Prior to that happening, I believe it's impossible. And any technology, particularly those that we, like Rudy was also mentioning, this notion of smart cities, this kind of surveillance technology system where everything is measured through this Internet of Things, that our fridge, is sending signals here and our oven is sending signals there. And all of a sudden, we're looking at our phones and, we're controlling everything from, a place of misery, not of connection. And, what we perceive to be efficient and convenient for us is actually taking us further and further away from what it means to be a human being living in a regenerative way. So I don't know of any technologies, and I don't, even if they exist, I don't want to necessarily talk about technology doing that job for us, because I don't think that's possible. When we talk about things like AI, and we're all living through, this kind of AI revolution right now, that, oh my God, there's so many smart things happening around me that, I can 10x myself or 100x myself and do more. This kind of accumulation of whatever it is that's going to bring us, I think is going to take us into the wrong direction. I think that the key to living regeneratively is to open your mouth and talk to your neighbors, share, spend time together, make music together, celebrate, dance, cook together, garden together, spend time outdoors together, be with your animals together, get out of this kind of idea that technology is going to be our savior, because I really don't think it is. I think it's going to lead us into this place of dystopia rather than utopia. So another way to look at this, which I think is really powerful, is that regeneration, sustainability, all these things are a spectrum. None of them actually exist in practice. We can never have a fully regenerative system without having a generative system. This is kind of the positive of a negative of life that must work in harmony with one another for either of them to exist. But we can look at it as a kind of spectrum between dystopia to utopia, or another way, from a degenerative society to a regenerative society. And sustainability is the kind of point right in the middle, this idea of net zero that everybody's, so proudly talking about. But that's the kind of tipping point, basically, between these two ways of being in the world. So I believe that there are certain technologies, AI, machine learning, all these things are not bad by default, but they're like children that are mimicking, the things we teach to them. So if you were to ask pretty well any AI, what is the biggest problem in the world? It's human beings. We all know that. So if we expect AI with that kind of vision of what we are, and we can see that ourselves, how we behave, we need to address some fundamental issues like data privacy, like having technology that works for us for the benefit of humanity, not for the benefit of the existing system, the society man-made system, which is really pushing us into the territory that we're in. So I could continue talking more and more about that, but I think I'll stop there.
Thank you, Marcus. You're so on point today. So yeah, basically what I hear from you is, yeah, we are in that system that has been built and grown over the last couple of 100 years, and which is basically a man-made system, an economic model. Yeah, and that we need to change. And regeneration starts all from there, from within. And so I wanted to ask Eda, for example, of like, because we live in this very masculine system, yeah, we can say, because everything is about efficiency, production. It's a very masculine energy. And so what is the role of the women, in this whole transformation towards regeneration and communities and cities?
Thank you, Rudy. Before that, I would like to add something to what Marcus's question was, the ancient technology. I think I don't know if it is technology, but the ancient people evolved by looking at the sky. They had the night sky. In cities, unfortunately, we don't see the night sky. And that makes us realize our ego go back into this vessel we called the body, instead of, shouting that I am the creator, like the man-made world. Again, coming to your question, I think we need experiences, maybe hacks, Adip. I don't know if you can do that in Beirut since you're on projects like that, but shut down the lights of the city and see the night sky. And that would make us realize, come back to our feminine side more, since we are more connected to the moon cycles and the world cycles and everything. I think that that running and creating and thinking that you are the creator, you are in control of everything, just shuts down when you are in face with the universe itself. Not only the nature on this planet, but we're a big part of a huge ecosystem, whether we know it or not, whether we go and touch it and experience it or not. And what Marcus always says, which I love, is that as above, so below. So once we see it, then we realize we're a part of this magic that created us, the universe and everything. That makes us realize. And I think the woman factor comes into that, the female energy comes into that, because we carry that knowledge, whether we like it or not. All of us do, but as women, as the nurturer, as the land itself, we are more in touch, in base with that, because we have to give it to our children. We have to somehow feed it back to this earth, this way or another. So that just came into my mind when Marcus was talking. And I always, when I go to the, outside of the city, that's what I love, to be in touch with not only the universe, this planet itself and the nature, but what is above, that is beyond us. And that makes us just, our ego to shut down a little bit. I think that's what we need. And that's what the human woman energy will bring onto this world, acting more from an insightful place that is connected to the creator.
If I might just throw one final point in there, because this is actually what I wanted to say, and I was hoping Edda would actually say it as well. But the fact of the matter is that human beings, each of us, are already the highest technology that it exists in this world. We barely understand anything about ourselves. And for us to think that the gadgets that we've created, no matter how sophisticated and amazing they are, they're still invented by people. So if we say, what is the ancient technology, what is the future technology, it's always us. There's nothing else in this world that we can serve other than, other human beings. Everything we do is for ourselves, for our place in this world. So we should never forget that. And it's our responsibility to more deeply understand ourselves if we want to answer that question.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Edda. Edda, when you are speaking, I see the role of woman. And regardless of man or woman, I think with the wisdom that we carry, as Marcus says, in our natural intelligence, our most innate and maybe the most ancient technologies, there's so much to be recognized and to come to the conscious level and to be integrated in the new systems that are emerging as we are talking here right now. We know that there is no other way. For me, when I gave birth to my daughters, and then the first time I went out in the same city that I was living in, I had a huge awakening. Oh my God, this city is not for life. I couldn't carry them in the stroller. I couldn't breastfeed under the shade of a tree. And when I was breathing all the pollution and the noise of the car honks, I was like, what are we doing to ourselves, to our lives, the most precious, our children? And with that, there was this very clear picture in my mind that life is less important than money. And with that narrative, what we are learning is actually a very, very disservice and reductionist way to look at humanity. We cannot degrade ourselves when we are in service to life. We need to recognize what are we representing as a beautiful expression of life in the mirror of each other. That's why community approach is very important. And when we say man or woman, female or male, it is to see our whole humanity, as a part of this whole beautiful planet, as a part of whole solar system. And to me, regeneration is going beyond these silos and see the connection of everything like the beautiful example of Adip, how a focus on the river can be actually seen from the whole of the city by focusing on bringing the nature through the forest that you have done beautifully, Adip. I would like to inspire this conversation, maybe with the photo of what you shared, Adip. Would you like to share with us? Let's put a picture to what we are talking about.
Sure. Just you need to allow it for some reason.
While you are doing that,
Okay.
I would like to also maybe read some of the comments. There is a beautiful comment here. Great resonance among us all, most essentially for a regenerative urban mindset. The understanding of an anthropocentric we is to be transformed into a planetary imaginary of togetherness that is including all life under our integrating sky. Let us cultivate the living planetary sphere as an inclusive global habitat where everything and everybody interact in evolutionary planetary cohabitation. I don't see the name, but thank you so much for this insight, which is so interesting because we say it is invisible and it's imaginary, but it is so real. Now we are living in the era of quantum physics and still we are thinking in the Newtonian limits. So I believe it's time to really regenerate the way we are thinking and being and acting together. So thank you so much. Adip, you're still looking for it or waiting for the...
I shared it, so I'm not sure if you're able to see it or not.
No, we are not seeing it. Maybe Pelin, you can help. While we are doing that, I want to move on to our next question. Like every transformation, when we are focusing on transforming the way we see ourselves and coming together in communities, integrating our mind, heart, and bodies, there are also systems that are growing certain type of mentality or behaviors. And right now, especially our youth is in danger. Their health and well-being, especially mental well-being, is in danger. So my question to you, how do we fuel this regenerative movement financially, socially, intellectually, in ways that can accelerate the process? So how do we make it happen beyond individual and local little community perspective? Do you have some insights, experiences? I would love to hear also your ideas, your guidance to the people who are listening to us right now. Anyone?
Maybe I could just jump in with one idea because it also is reflecting my own life experience as well. So when I was growing up in the middle of nowhere in Canada, let's say, surrounded by beautiful nature, I got bored. I wanted to feel what city life and urban life was actually like, and it was really kind of to cure that sense of boredom and being alone that I chose to then live the rest of my adult life in some of the biggest cities of the world, which I'm now kind of feeling stuck in. But for me, my way around that is actually to go back to nature, not to go back to some kind of previous period and have the similar experience I had when I was growing up, but really to use the tools. And maybe this is answering the question that you just asked me the last time about what is the technology that can help us. Technology, thankfully, has evolved to the point where we can do things now that we couldn't do just a couple of years ago. And it's now foreseeable that we could actually have a good life in nature or in a smaller context, not a city, so to speak, but in a village, in a place where we can still be together with people, celebrate the human experience at human scale without being overwhelmed by the size and scale and sheer energetic field of the city. And we've all assumed that this is a foregone conclusion that urbanization is going to continue as it is, because those predictions were made, before technology had reached the point that it currently has. And Turkey is a good country in point. 85% of people in Turkey live in cities. There's plenty of cities that are over 1 million people, which for me as a Canadian is a super rare thing. There's only 3 or 4 cities in the entire country in Canada that are over 1 million. So we see it a lot here, including me and those around me in our own life that want to leave the city, not because, well, actually, because there's another way to live. We have new lifestyle options. So if we're looking at what is the future for our kids, it's no longer the case that they must be in an urban center to have a good life. They don't have to go to an urban university to get a job working in a city, to have a good quality existence. There are new models of living that we can support, even in our generation, is a way forward to our kids and to the next generation, that we don't have to be the factory worker. We don't have to be the accountant. We have to be the sales manager working in something that requires us to be in an urban environment. We can do all kinds of other things and have, new possibilities, even a world market, globalization at a very different level, where we're truly in a local environment and living at human scale, but using some of these tools that, we have the potential now to create correctly, to fix the mistakes of this previous generation of globalism, which made, everything simply efficient and as cheap as possible, primarily to fuel the pockets of the West. So I think that, supporting those new models of living, where it forces us to have good relationships with our children and the next generation. We should be interested in the things they're doing, and likewise, they should be interested in what we're doing, rather than having a model that, once you finished your university, your education, you're on your own. We'll see you and talk to you once a week on the telephone, and, see each other during the holidays. And that's our way of living. We can have a completely new model where we stay closer as either a family or extended family unit, and kind of mix even business and friendship, which was, constantly a taboo in the kind of world of the city. Never do business with your friends or family because it's going to end badly. So these types, those are just some examples, but I think that, it's up to us to open a safe space for the exploration of new ways of living that don't force us to be so dependent on the city.
Mm-hmm. What I hear from you is waking up to our responsibility and doing it in exploratory ways that works for us. But it's all of us, not waiting some government body or some other person to decide on behalf of us. So that level of dependency, where we were giving away our power of thinking, our power of decision making, our power of feeling, our role on this planet, is your invitation. That seems like a very good funnel of all the capital back to its source.
Yes.
Thank you, Marcus.
Human scale, I think, is really the issue. We need to bring our senses down again to a scale that we understand. Because when things go beyond, let's say, a grouping of 150 people, this magical Dunbar number, which goes into our ancient, anthropology of, how we evolved as human beings. If you have to start remembering more than 150 people's names, their birthdays, that you hug them when you see them, you care about them, you smile, you joke together, you can all see that in your own lives, in all of our own lives. We just start to close down, and we cover ourselves up, and that's what urban life is. It forces us to be competitors rather than collaborators, and it's out of natural context.
Exactly. And when we think and act and feel that connection, that deep connections that actually is waiting to be awakened and regenerated among us, there is so much strength that can affect millions of lives by a couple of hundred people. Because when we are trying to claim power and centralize power, it is not sustainable. But there is so much strength in our connections. I think this is what we are discovering as humanity, due to some force, like the disasters after the earthquakes in Turkey, or climate all around the world. We have to act together, and that connection needs to be sincere, needs to be coming from your heart. And with that, we have so much strength together. And the possibilities of life is also guiding us. I don't believe we need to strategize too much in the mind, but we need to follow the guidance and create systems that can also allow our guidance systems to be more conscious and to be activated together.
Yes, and thank you, Janai. Yeah. There are already some great examples in Amsterdam, for example, how they apply the donut economic model from Kate Raworth. which is about like keeping as much as possible that doesn't need to be in the city that is polluting, outside, and create more regenerative spaces on the inside. And so they also empower neighborhoods. For example, a lot of neighborhoods, they take their own power in their own hands of like how they want their neighborhood to look like. How do you want your street to look like? And then they come together and they propose the plans to the civil authorities, and then they make them happen. Sometimes it's with the city council, and sometimes it isn't. Yeah? So in the example also that Adip mentioned, but there is definitely a lot of good examples out there already. In Barcelona also, for example, they decided with the structure of all the blocks basically to cut out certain blocks in certain areas and make them green spaces. So the children can play again and they have more trees in it. And the first results are already amazing. After a couple of years, they have an increase of well-being of the people living there. So, and of course, it's a choice. Because you need to choose like, do I keep on favoriting transport and fast transport and economy, or do I care about the well-being of my citizens? So, and I think there is a lot to do about the well-being. So how do we feel ourselves, in the city, and how do I take responsibility of my own well-being and my neighborhood, the relationships, that I'm talking to my neighbors? How can we use the power of community also to, activate those senses, because we come out of these very individualistic structures. So I forgot now what my question was, but
actually, when you said well-being, water is like a mega issue right now, and especially in cities, there is so much waste of water. And when we think of our natural technologies, our body is mainly water, our planet is mainly water. So how we can regenerate and utilize and circulate water in the most natural ways is so essential, I believe. And with that, I would like to ask you, Adip, maybe you would like to answer, how can we regenerate water in cities that can bring the natural flow, natural circulation, instead of, again, reducing and forcing ourselves into plastic bottles and the economies of water, forcing people to pay for it? And do you have some insights, some best practices around that you would like to share with us?
So it's not something that we are working directly on, but indirectly through the work that we're doing, we know that the main issue around the Beirut River is that the source. So there are private water bottling companies that are pumping the water at source, and so there's very little water left in the river. And then agriculture farmers are pumping the rest of that water to use it on their lands in not regenerative ways. And then all of this fresh water is being replaced by raw sewage that is being dumped by the different towns, villages, and cities and industrial zones. So you are pumping that fresh water out, you are draining the aquifers and all of that, and then you are replacing this by raw sewage, industrial waste, and solid waste. So we know that first of all, we obviously need to stop the pollution. So that would be step number one. The second step would be, again, to allow that water to flow freely, because this is what you need. Like this whole watershed of the Beirut River is being depleted, the water is being extracted, and it's being replaced by sewage. So you first need to stop the pollution, so stop the aggression, then you need to stop the extraction, or allow for that sewage to be actually treated and then flowing back into the river as more or less fresh water. And that can go through phytoremediation processes, so getting filtered through constructed wetlands, planted with different types of reeds and plants that will actually do this work for us, instead of going into the mechanical and chemical filtration systems that require a lot of energy and a lot of chemical additives. So there are ways and there are examples throughout the world that we can refer to. And basically with the forest that we are, when you're restoring forest, you're actually restoring the watershed, and you're allowing for that water to infiltrate into the ground. So you're restoring the water cycle. You're allowing for stormwater, instead of being considered as stormwater as something that you need to get rid of in the city through gray infrastructure by building more pipes and more channels and more concrete things, and taking it, and directly dumping it into the sea. So you're allowing it, you're uncompacting the soil, you are planting it, you're having all of these beneficial microorganisms and fungi and bacteria and the roots of the plants that are allowing for this water to infiltrate, to get filtered, and then to recharge underground aquifers. And this is what used to provide water to the city of Beirut since thousands, tens of thousands of years ago. So this is just one part of the solution, but there's so many others as well that are really steeply based on mimicking nature and having respect for nature.
Thank you for this extensive explanation, Adib. It gives me so much hope and joy to see that there are so many ways that when we intend and change our narratives about what is our role and what is like this type of water, instead of seeing it as a natural flow, there are so many opportunities and that is awaiting for us to tap into. Thank you so much, Adib. Is there anyone else who would like to say something about water? Marcus, Eda?
I don't know, just one unique aspect about water is that water stores memory. And like you mentioned, we are 80% water. The world is 70, 80% water. And, we have to come face to face with the idea that, water is lifeblood. And not just water, the bigger issue here is that we are nature. We're not separate to nature. And this whole idea that we've have dominion over nature, that, man has this special privilege that, whatever he sees around him, he can just extract, use for whatever purpose he sees fit. And, that's the law of the world. This needs to change. And this is really, I think, the key core here is to adjust the supply-demand curve. And the real issue also is, who are the people making buildings, the investors, the developers, the architects. I've spent 20 years of my life in that world, kind of constantly suffering with this problem. You have to convince people at the top that what they're investing into has a responsibility to do the right thing built into it, rather than just being an investment that pays off in 3 years. They make their money, they've sold to the next level customer, and they move on to the next project, therefore repeating this cycle, this domino effect that nobody can keep up with. It grows too quickly. One large-scale community or master plan community will have, possibly 1,000 people living there and millions of people visiting per year. You can do whatever you want to try to plant, bring trees back into the city or save, the kind of water ecosystem. But until that stops, until that cycle of development stops, nothing will be enough to stop it. It's a juggernaut. It takes everything over. And cities like Istanbul, I've been here for 24 years. When I first moved here, the population was 7.5 million people. Now it's 20. So if you think about, that, it's an overwhelming thing to even comprehend. And with urbanization increasing as it is around the world, the only thing that we can maybe really, really do, and the most important thing, is to change the supply-demand curve. To, as customers, say that we demand, projects that will enable life to flourish, that we're interested in knowing our community. We're interested in knowing, who's living next door. We hear them upstairs, but do we really know who they are? There used to be a saying in Turkish that you don't buy a house, you buy a neighbor. Somehow it's been lost. And what do we do in cities except, home, work, and entertain? These are the three things that happen here. So we need to kind of really look at those three things. Work now, because of the pandemic, because of COVID, because of technology, we can pretty well work anywhere. And I think that on that side, things are probably moving in the right direction. But in terms of redefining this concept of what do we demand from a home? What is a home? Is it just a shelter for us to not get wet, when it's raining? Is it a place just to have a place that we can throw a bed and put our shoes in the corner? No, there's many beautiful, life takes place in the home. And in terms of entertainment, I don't know, I can only speak personally, but the city is no longer a source of entertainment for me. You know, you can entertain yourself at home. You can learn how to cook. You can learn how to make music. You can dance with the people you love. You don't need to go out to a club to do that. You don't need to go out to a restaurant to, you know, experience the tastes of the world. If you have curiosity and, you know, look at the way you spend your 24 hours differently, you know, we can truly, from within, by changing our own habits, change the way cities start to operate. And I think that that's where we need to put our responsibility and attention.
Yeah, I love how you are putting our focus into home, because I like to think my body is my home. So I take home wherever I go. So this is something that I need to really take care of, make peace with, and then nourish. And then my home right now in Ibiza, my home, Spain, Turkey, my home, the planet. But our home is actually our humanity, and how we are bringing our memories, like you say, and how we claim what we deserve by expressing, this is what I need, this is what we deserve. And that in the business models for constructing buildings or building cities is somehow from a less deserving perspective, as humanity and our lives is not that precious. That's why it's okay to build buildings that can collapse, even if it's on the most dangerous earthquake zones. And this is so sad. I think waking up to our humanity and how precious our lives is the first step to regenerative transformation, whether it's in cities, whether it's in business models, whether it's in our relationships. But instead of focusing on the lack, let's focus on all the pathways that are open to us, and we walk up to many of them, many of us, because right now I see, at least thanks to technology, thanks to our connections, we are here having this conversation. So that gives me a lot of hope. Thank you so much for your words, Marcus.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, let's not forget also that many of us, as a young man or young woman, we went to the city, you know, to build a career. So we left everything behind. We really got into this individualistic mindset where everything was about, okay, achieving something. And we left behind our connections about our family or friends or local community. And to restore this, you know, we need to restore those relationships, you know, healthy relationship with self, healthy relationship with, you know, our family or friends and neighbors. So I think community building and empowering communities is probably the best we can do to regenerate cities. But I would like to have a last word from each one of you, short one, because then we're going to go to Marv and his musical review of this session.
Okay, thank you. I want to start maybe. I think our biggest problem as humanity is the shiny object syndrome right now, that we are drawn to glamour, luxury, wealth, accumulation, success. What is the definition of that? And our youth is also seeing that and being drawn to that because of social media, thankfully. And especially in Turkey, what we're going through right now also made me realize, since we're on LinkedIn, I want to make this call to the HRs who are listening, that the companies should be putting on service, you know, asking for people who are volunteering, working with NGOs and all that stuff, that to be a requirement, so that the young generation will reach out to something that is beyond themselves, the individualization and the selfishness, but to contribute, to be in service of the public. If that mindset settles, I think the regenerative cities and what we want to do in the cities, we wouldn't be waiting for others to do it, but we will take initiative and responsibility to do it. So that seva, that service mentality should be settled in communities all around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Eda.
Maybe just to build on Eda, since we are living in the same house here, I think the importance and thing that she has taught me, that I've experienced through my time with Eda, is that, you know, service comes with a massive upside. And it's something that we can never really fully appreciate until we do it. And what it does to us is it opens up our sense of compassion, which otherwise doesn't open. It's like a flower that opens in springtime. So to have this sense of experience of selfless service, you know, it's beyond empathy, it's beyond sympathy. It's another layer. And that's the vibration of love. And that's where beauty lives. And I think that it's really an important thing that I mentioned, because that service to something bigger than ourselves will connect us with what humanity is. It gives us a sense of scale of why cities are actually important and why life on Earth is important, at the ultimate scale, and possibly beyond that, what is the role of the Earth within the universe? I mean, these are all very, very deep, lifelong issues to contemplate. But it's only the sense of compassion that will guide us into the correct direction. And the only way we can get there is to let go of ourselves and serve something bigger than ourselves. So I think that's a beautiful and very powerful message to leave on as well.
Thank you, Marcus.
Just kind of very short. I think it's really about kind of showing people that there's a different way. So really building that image that a different world is possible, and showing them that we can kind of move away from a worldview of scarcity. We are meant to believe that there's not enough resources, there's not enough money, there's not enough food. But we know that this is not true. So we need to, people need to understand that there is abundance in this world, and it's just about, I think it's really important to show people that they have agency. And for me, that's something that's very important. Like, no one's going to give it to you. You're going to have to take it yourself. But you do have agency to do something, however small that is. It is something that you believe in and that you can actually start doing today.
Aho. Thank you, Adib. You are a living example to it. Thank you so much. Do you want to say a final word?
No, I'm good. You can say it.
Okay, so here are my words. I am so blessed and grateful for your presence here, both to our speakers, but also to the people who are watching, who are contributing with their insights and questions. And also, I would like to say that, especially with the aspect of community and technology, we are inviting you to participate in our decentralized human organization learning journey. And soon we are going to do a demo about it. And you can send an email to join@regeneratex.co to participate in this process, because this cross-pollination, co-creation, and claiming our agency while we are acting as a community and community of communities together is so important. And with the love in our hearts, we like to take our part in service with that. Also soon, we are meeting in Ibiza. Adib is joining us. Hey, y'all. And we are going to be together in the 7 days journey, where we are going to be designing with regenerative principles after having deep experiences within us to become this whole human and whole community. So you are more than welcome if you want to join us in Ibiza. Marcus, Eda, we are going to be together in Heartmasters Bodrum in September, inshallah. And with that, I would like to also share my gratitude and appreciation with Marv. Marv is not only someone who does music, but he brings the consciousness through voice on the frequency creation level and the bridge of the invisible to the visible. So Marv, please, stage is yours. Guide us with your wisdom, how you see the place of music, of art, of frequency to regenerate cities, regenerate communities. And we are ready to meditate and go through your musical journey with you.
Thank you. So I'll answer that very shortly. And as I do that, if any of you don't have headphones or at least a speaker, I would encourage connecting them at this moment, because this is going to be a stereo experience with sound. As I've been listening to this beautiful presentation, I've been creating music and creating a sound journey that you'll be listening to live as we go through this visualization. So in my estimation of where music, and in particular voice, goes in the future of regenerative cities, it's somewhere where instantly you can be in the pulse of what's going on in terms of entertainment, and how entertainment can be holistic and regenerative, how the finance and economy from a certain area could be redistributed into that area, how when the advent of AI and voice recognition tech reaches where it's inevitably going to go, we can start to feed back on what systems we would like to see within our own community simply by speaking them out. And this could be the realm of instant manifestation, when we can connect technology, nature, humanity, and community so that we can all affect our reality through the vibrations, the sounds, the voice, and the vision of what we would like to see. I could speak for much longer, but I feel that it's much nicer to have some sound. So this is all made live while listening to this song. While listening to this talking, this meditative song has been created. And I'd like to invite you to sit in a comfortable position and breathe gently as I take you through this visualization. Envision yourself walking in the city of tomorrow, the town of tomorrow. And as you walk down this path, you witness the perfect harmony and synergy of nature, and technology, where balance can be experienced. As you witness these systems, as you witness these intertwining systems, you start to witness a world where balance is attained. As you start to witness this living environment, this natural, technological marvel,
changed so that you could only hear me from my built-in microphone. This is what you should have been hearing. Apologies for that technical issue. So once again, bring yourself back to that meditative situation of walking down this path, of seeing this nature intertwining with technology, a living, breathing environment, continually upgrading itself to serve better its residents of all species, of all kinds, of all genders, creeds, and races, where entertainment is soothing and healing. But the most popular trends are that which bring about a state of well-being, peace, regeneration, and abundance. And as you begin to allow your imagination to fill in the blanks and show you these regenerative cities, towns, and villages of the future, tune into your heart's intention and ask yourself the simple question of, how can I make one step to bring this about? Everything is possible together. Peace and harmony. divine meditation, levitation, reaching a higher station. An end to the old paradigm of yours and mine, of individuality. We move into unity. Every city, its truth we see. Young, listening to the elder. Elders listen to the young. As we remember, we are one. And as you witness this ever-evolving, ever-changing environment in front of you, start to see in the center of this path a symbol, a shape, maybe a color that represents this future that we are generating together. And bring that symbol into the center of your heart as you breathe and anchor this reality, knowing that we are moving towards this future, this peaceful, prosperous, abundant reality. And as you anchor that through your breath, come back into your body. Feel the edges of your body, your skin, feel the center, your spine, and feel all the energy moving through as we dare to dream, as we choose a different reality, as we take that first step, empower our voices and raise the vibration as we come back into wholeness from where we came, back within our mother's womb, back to the truth. The future is now. The future is regeneration. Thank you.
Wow, that was great, Marv. What a great way to end this event. Thank you so much. And we thank all our participants, dear speakers, greatly for joining us for this special session of RegenerateX. It is such a delight to meet all of you. So this is the fifth of many events where experts, leaders, entrepreneurs, and regenerators from all around the world come together to discuss and explore the ways in which we can work towards a more regenerative future. We will be continuing our LinkedIn bi-weekly events, so you can follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram to stay connected and in the know. You can also reach out to me directly if you're interested in joining us for upcoming Heartmasters Ibiza and Bodrum. So see you in the next event. Bye bye.